Okay, I have a very curious question. You said
Yeah.
something that is very interesting, and I think it's very honest as well, and it's quite humorous as well. So you said, I'm going to call this guy up, I'm going to just steal his ideas, and I'm just going to carry on. Now, what exactly happened between the communication and the relation that you guys built over those 5 or 6 meetings that you thought, actually, I should team up with this guy instead of just like, taking some ideas and doing whatever it is that I'm going to do?
But I think for anybody in business I think everyone underestimates actually just how much there is to do. I mean, it is literally endless. My first work call this morning was at just before 7 a.m. My last work call last night was around, I don't know, just before midnight.
Right.
And it's people based in, different locations. It was a phone call from LA first thing, last thing last night, sorry, and a call from Asia this morning. So it just never stops. There's always something to do. There's I guess that even from a tailoring perspective, you'll never meet a tailor that says he's learned everything. And it's the same in business. We've never achieved everything that we need to do. Aside from the fact that if you had a wider angle lens on this iPhone, you'd be able to see the sort of chaos that is slightly behind me. You can see just here, part-built walls that need to go up. So that there's always something to be done. And I think that's what a good business partner enables you to do, is the fact that you can have supreme confidence if you've got a good business partner, in the sense that you will both work with the same ethic, the same resolve on different projects that then meet in the middle.
Right.
And that's exactly what we managed to sort of afford. And the beauty of the relationship for the two of us is the fact that we both actually like doing those different things. Ian's got a more sort of analytical mind than I do. So he loves to run the sort of the production side of the business, the IT side of the business, the Excel formulation spreadsheets that everyone needs to get a grip with if they really want to conquer finances and everything else. And I did all that, and I just can't. I just hands up. This not for me. Not for me anymore. I'd much prefer to be on the sort of creative side of things. It's the exact reason I left my previous game. So it's we're very lucky to sort of have a great sort of working relationship that we both just thrive and strive. And it was just talking to each other and actually being relatively open. And he told me a lot of his ideas. And I've said to him, very categorically, that's a great idea. Maybe I'm going to think about that. And then I'd give him a little tidbit. And then in the end, we both gave each other so many different tidbits that we both basically just gave each other the business.
Right.
So it just
yeah, please continue.
Yeah. So it just made, sort of total sense to do it together.
And how much, what would you say were the skills and the perspectives that you developed before you started working with Ian, that if you didn't have them, or if you hadn't developed them, it would be impossible for you to start this journey? Because you guys have done something pretty big. You haven't just like set up a workshop. You guys are like international businessmen.
Yeah. And I think the real thing that we wanted to do is to sort of just go into something and try and change, just try and change how things are done. Not sort of lose the sort of integrity of anything, but just to sort of try and change it, because at one point this street was about change, and at one point the old guard were the change. And I think there's sort of too much romanticizing about the past when it comes to Savile Row, and not enough forward thinking about its future. Because if we only look that way, there isn't this way. And so that's always our resolve, is, how can we make this, how can we improve everything? How can we continually work together as a team just to be better and better and better and better, and to grow things? Because Ian and I don't want to be the next suit supplier. That's not what we want to do. But neither do we want to be that sort of one-man craftsman in a room by ourselves. There's at some point there's got to be a sort of cap on what we do without losing our sort of direct involvement in the business. And we're not interested in selling out to VC and all that sort of stuff. We're very much hands-on in the business, and we're here in it every single day doing exactly the same jobs we did from day one.
And if you would say, when we started out, this was phase one, this was phase two, this was phase three, how would you describe this different stages that you guys had to kind of like literally step by step go through to get the first CAD shop running? Because you guys aren't tailors, so you have to work with tailors, and then it's like, okay, how can we find the good tailors and how can we find the good manufacturers and all of that? So could you explain a little bit in what stages you guys moved, forward?
Actually, when we looked at the business and where we are today, they are pretty different beasts, actually. I guess from when you set up a business, the first thing you need to do is make sure that you've got customers coming through. And actually winning your first round of customers is pretty easy. You can get those with, when you're new, you can always get lots of articles written about you, the new thing and blah, blah, blah. And we were very, very lucky that we had lots of that. And so, I think month one, we probably sold about 10 suits. And month three, we sold 90 suits. And then month four, we went back to selling 10. And that's the problem that a lot of tailors fall into, is the sort of cyclical nature of tailoring. And then obviously tie that in or compound the problem with things like a VAT bill for the same month that you haven't got lots of customers coming in. And so it's looking at those things to sort of try and steady the ship, to mean that you never have these sort of huge peaks and troughs in either income or outgoings, because it's a balanced ship that floats.
Right. And would you say that you guys worked out the bigger picture as you developed the smaller steps, or did you already have one set picture and everything was kind of like step by step ticking off?
No, exactly. I remember, we were quite clear that we didn't want to go too high on our pricing, early on. Because we wanted to try and attract lots of customers, but obviously knowing that there was a sort of critical mass that the business needed to get to actually make it sustainable. If we don't sell enough suits, we're not in business. But that's the same of any sort of tailoring company out there. But we just work from the sort of get-go to sort of try and even the ship, and that's partly why we've opened this ready-to-wear shop, because I run a pretty different business to all the other tailors on the street, in the sense that we don't have piece workers, we don't use out workers, and the rest of the street is almost totally reliant on it. And so it means that we have the same amount of hands each month to keep busy. And so then responsibility comes from the marketing sort of side of things, or the customer liaison sort of side, proactively calling back in customers and trying to attract new customers, to make sure all the hands are there and not just a pure liability for the business from a financial perspective, but that we use it as an absolute asset that we can all sort of grow the business together.
Right. That makes sense. I guess as you're describing it, you guys seem to be very flexible, at the same time strategic in what the choices you make, because you're creative, you come up with new ideas as you go along, and then you have your partner Ian, who is kind of like making sure that things can be put in context and developed further, so they're not just like floating ideas.